Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. This session is on the Internet of Things, or IoT, or smart, insert whatever it is, or really sensors that are collecting data. Our agenda this morning. So I'm doing the quick welcome and overview of the Digital Surge Programme now. Then we're going to welcome along Conall Laverty, the founder of Wia. We'll have a quick break after that, and then Richard from Innovate UK KTN is going to give us an overview of some of his work. 11 o'clock, Professor Duncan McFarlane and Anand Mukherjee from Digital Manufacturing on Shoestring are going to give us an overview of their work. Around 11:45, I will do a quick overview of IoT Belfast, which I was thinking we should actually rename to IoT Northern Ireland, but that's I'll have to talk to the rest of them about that. And then hopefully by 12 o'clock we'll be away for our lunch. So a quick overview of our speakers. I know I've rattled through the agenda there. Conall is the founder of Wia. So Wia IoT Cloud provides companies and engineers with secure infrastructure and APIs to build, connect, and deploy Internet of Things solutions at scale. There's also Wia Energy, which helps companies analyze energy with real-time data to manage consumption, reduce spend, and improve operational efficiency. And there's never been, I'm sure, a more time that is important. Richard Foggie from Innovate UK KTN. Richard works with IoT and 5G in the team with close connection to KTN smart cities and the manufacturing, health, energy and infrastructure sectors. He supports organisations and people who are into IoT or smart data and the systems for catching, shifting, chopping and slicing, including wireless transports for solving business problems in any space. So if it's LP-WAN, IoT, cloud, smart, whatever, digitization and digitalization. He works across sectors, helping companies and people accelerate their ideas into real world solutions. And Richard guides them through significant industrial and digital strategies, obtaining expertise and forging connections like new clients and investors. So Anand and Duncan are part of the Digital Manufacturing on a Shoestring team. That is a collaborative project that brings together a range of people working in the manufacturing industry with university researchers to adapt low-cost, accessible technologies for companies to use. Duncan conceived this idea in 2016, and since then launched in 2018, and then in the following years it has demonstrated its potential for industrial impact with the help of industry partners. So I've rattled through that quite quickly. I hope that made sense. Okay. All right. Sorry, 1 second. So this masterclass is part of the Digital Surge programme. So we run workshops and masterclasses on innovation and the other technologies that are covered in the programme. So that's blockchain, big data, AI and machine learning, IoT, obviously, robotics and cobotics, and immersive technologies such as augmented and virtual reality. Those workshops and masterclasses like today's session are open for anybody anywhere in the world to attend, because they're online. There's no reason people can't join. I'm really happy to share the knowledge and our experiences. However, if you want to apply for the 6 days of fully funded mentoring in those technology areas, that is only open to companies based in Northern Ireland with under 50 employees, but open to any sector. The first part of that funded support is an innovation diagnostic and an innovation roadmap, then 6 days of mentoring support in those technologies, and then a digital acceleration plan on how you would go about implementing that technology. Like, what are the skills you need, who do you need to speak to, what are the other programs, further support, further grants, whatever. So it's a good strategic plan on that technology and making sure that it's the right fit for your business, that is going to solve the problems and challenges that you want to address and help you towards your goals. I think I have mentioned it, but just to be sure, the project is part funded by Invest Northern Ireland and the European Regional Development Fund, and also all the local councils as well. So it's open to anybody in Northern Ireland. And I will share the link to apply after that. But some council areas there aren't very many spaces left. Some council areas are already full. So the next masterclass that we have is next week. That'll be big data, and one of the speakers along to that is Aniko, a Northern Ireland success story. Charlie will be running an innovation workshop on the 6th of December. We have cobotics and robotics on the 7th of December, and fast technologies will be one of Mark Higgins is coming along to speak at that. Also Alan Reid from Northern Regional College. And then we have artificial intelligence and machine learning on the 14th of December, and then we'll be breaking for Christmas. So hopefully that QR code will take you to the registration page, but I can share all these links afterwards. So if I can, I'm going to try and do a quick poll, and I just want to see, I know we have a very varied, eclectic mix of people here today, so I think I have to unshare my screen and then we'll launch a poll. If you just see there, so we have a lot of different backgrounds on today, and to give the I suppose the people here speaking an idea of who's here. What is your IoT background? And I can see everyone's cracking away. It's pretty self-explanatory. Are you somebody who works with IoT technologies, implementing them, advising, consulting, or are you a company who is already using a bit of IoT? Are you a company who's not, but is interested? Are you just curious about it, or other? So I think it's companies not using IoT and curious are even at around 31% each. Practitioner around 7. Okay, I'll end the poll. I hope I can share this now. Share results. Okay, so that's interesting. So it's nice to see that you know, today is a high level introduction, and that seems to be you know, where we're at. Okay, so you have to bear with me, there's just so many things to do on this. Oh, that's for later. I'll give me your feedback later. You don't have to do that now. So I was just going to give a very high level overview. I am definitely not an IoT expert, but I think one of the big things about this program, it is not a program aimed at startups, and we do have some startups on it, and you know, they're getting extra resource and exploring different technologies and how to supplement or what they're doing. But it's about digital transformation, and that's the ongoing process of improving business operations and products with digital solutions. And digital transformation is important because it helps businesses compete in current markets and prepare for future ones. IoT gives businesses the opportunity to collect new or more data across all operations. So that's why IoT is part of that digital transformation. And it's really any sector can use IoT, whether that's retail, hospitality, facilities management, manufacturing, engineering, construction, logistics, agriculture, whatever it is. Some of the benefits, it can help keep track of products, it can help monitor assets, whether that's in a manufacturing production line, plant equipment, from fridges to jacuzzis. and that can help improve productivity and efficiency. It helps create this visibility throughout supply chains as well. And then I think one of the really good things is as well, once you're starting to collect all this data, you can get towards that. Everyone's talking about digital twins now, and it helps you start to build up the information to, if that's, if you want to create a digital twin, to do that. Some of the high level points, and our speakers will elaborate on much further. I think one of the main characteristics, there's some of the things I was reading last night were saying about how complicated IoT could be. I think certainly when we hear from our speakers, that's not the case. I think one of the main characteristics for me is that it's really, a lot of times can be plug and play, and you can collect data from anywhere at any time. Computing is faster, storage is ubiquitous, battery power has improved, the progress in hardware has been matched by significant developments in analytics and AI and machine learning, some of the other topics that we cover in our other sessions. And that means that you can get faster, more granular insights and automated decision making from the data provided from the sensors. There's also, we've got 4G, 5G's been rolled out. There's all the other network protocols. Sorry, someone just put something in the chat. I'm just writing in case we can't. Oh, thank you, Richard. Yes. There's a wide range of connectivity options that can meet people's certain requirements, whether it's you're trying to collect data from livestock in a field or in a factory that doesn't have a great Wi-Fi. There will be solutions. So I think the technology has a low entry threshold as well. You don't have to rip out everything in your factory. There's a low level of knowledge needed within the company. A lot of the products, and certainly Conall will talk to that as well, that there's the support there and the products there to help you implement the technology. You can just make a small investment. It's very affordable, and you can often get the first insights or value within a very short period of time, even days or weeks. So I will pass over now to Conall. I can see your face there, Conall. I'm going to make you host.
Great, thank you, Gillian.
Host, and then you'll be able to share your screen, whatever. So
Brilliant.
Passing over now to people who actually know what they're talking about. So
good to be confirmed. We'll see.
I just tell people to put them in the chat, and I can call them out, or they can raise their hand or whatever. Is that okay?
Yeah, please feel free to interrupt me, or I'll just continue on a. Shouldn't be. Is that working now? No.
Still on mute.
Oh.
How's that? Is that working okay? No?
I can hear you fine.
Yeah.
Rebecca, that might be my Wi-Fi connection. Oh.
Oh.
Let's try that again then.
Is here, Conall? I can't.
I can hear him fine from the start.
Oh, I can hear now. Yes, sorry. I had my sound down.
That's okay. If only you had an IoT speaker which could automatically turn the volume up when on Zoom calls. But yeah, if everyone can hear okay and the video is okay, because I'm sort of, as you can maybe see from my background, I'm actually literally inside a greenhouse right now. I'm in a co-working space, and this is one of the areas, I guess, probably the most energy efficient area, given the light coming from above and the heat being trapped in here. So if I start sweating, don't worry, I'm not gonna drop. But anyway, yeah. So thank you everyone for coming out this morning. Just a little bit more, I guess, background on. Oh, Sorry, Rebecca. Rebecca says she's having issues there. Is this the same for everyone around with flickering?
It's okay with me. And Rebecca, I don't think it'll make any difference if I turn my camera off, but I will.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Alrighty. Okay. Well, we'll continue, and then I'll try to keep an eye on the chat, and yeah, just let me know if there are any issues. So yeah, so a bit of a quick background on myself. So I'm a kind of, I guess, a lifelong engineer. Started building things at a very young age. I had my first tech startup when I was about 13 in the games industry, really around mobile games, and I studied actually in Belfast, Queen's, doing originally electronics and software. Dropped out halfway through first year just become a stereotypical tech dropout. And then went back and did my master's in computer games. And then I was CTO of a creative technology company in Belfast, working with clients like Channel 4, Samsung, kind of BBC, big kind of large corporates building out web services, apps, and games. And then set up Wia from, I guess, a lifelong fascination with kind of sensors and electronics. But also because my bike was stolen from 2 floors underground, and I wanted to start to look at building solutions to solve little problems like that, and realized the infrastructure was an even bigger problem. So I'm just going to share my screen. This works okay. Alrighty, you should see lots of color up there on the screen now. So yeah, so really kind of who are we at Wia? So what we really do, as Gillian touched on before as well, is we like to think of ourselves as a company that provides all the software that is needed to develop any sort of Internet of Things or IoT solution. Apologies in advance, because you're going to hear the phrase IoT and Internet of Things quite a lot probably today. So where we kind of look at is we are the company that are kind of, if we were to talk about an X for Y, kind of what Stripe do for finance, we do for sensors. And we operate throughout the EU, the US, and the UK, with kind of mostly device manufacturers and sustainability companies. Sorry, by the way, if people can't see the chat at the same time, so just feel free to interrupt me audibly if there are any questions or issues. Yeah, so we process hundreds of millions of pieces of information every single week from a wide array of sensors across those territories, and we like to think of ourselves as experts in kind of the sensors themselves, the software, and the connectivity. We've had a good bit of media coverage. A lot of the big kind of companies around the world have recognized the things that we do. And look, if we're looking at why we use the Internet of Things in general, I like to just break it down to 3 very simple reasons. You want to make money, you want to save money, or you want to be compliant. And that's really where your IoT journey should be beginning. So with any sort of technology or any sort of business decision, it's got to really be decided around the return on investment rather than just an opportunity to try to flashy new technologies. And I say that as someone who is a technologist and an engineer. It is much more satisfying when you are able to kind of take a business problem and be able to utilize what is out there in the market to solve that business problem. So starting with the make money side of things, for a lot of device manufacturers that we would work with, they will typically be very CapEx heavy businesses. So they will maybe sell their sensors or maybe even machinery or some other physical product. And when they sell it, that's it. That's the revenue, potentially all the revenue that they get from that customer. But now there is a massive transition, as we've seen with software, as you use maybe kind of Google Apps and Office 365 or any of those products, everything is going towards an as a service model. So in the make money bucket that we've got here, this gives a great opportunity for device manufacturers and other kind of enterprises that want to embrace this technology to start to generate OpEx revenue, which is more which it's more sustainable and gives you the opportunity to increase streams as customer needs change. The other piece is around reducing costs. And reducing costs is a huge thing, obviously, at the moment for every single type of business. It doesn't really matter what type of business that you are, whether you're a kind of a cafe owner or whether you're someone who owns a massive office block, or you're a global business with a portfolio of buildings. The need to reduce costs has hit everyone at the moment for kind of various reasons. And a lot of that is down to really, if we look at how wasteful we are with things like energy, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, we can start to, our issue really is that we don't have the knowledge to allow us to be able to make decisions. And that's really where the Internet of Things comes in. It's really about utilizing technologies that teach us behavior so that we can make really great commercial decisions, which can then reduce costs and overall spend. Then the third piece is around the compliance and the regulation. So depending on what industry that you're in, you may have certain requirements to actually provide or report your certain business activities to external regulators. And that may be around CO2 reporting, it could be around your energy, or it could be around other parts of air quality. It's just really around kind of depending on what your business requirements are, and taking out the human element around that and automating that as much as possible is a great way to combine both the compliance and the reduction of costs. So what's in a typical IoT solution? So it's really broken down into three elements. You've got the physical world and the virtual world. So the sensors themselves I like to think of them as just very simple atomic devices that do one thing and do one thing very well. And that one thing may be that they are able to capture temperature or humidity or air pressure or kind of occupancy, whatever it is, that they do that one piece and that is all they do. And the market has kind of got a mass array of sensors that are now available that are becoming more energy efficient, that are becoming more precise, lower cost. So there's really pretty much anything for any use case out there already. On the connectivity side, so the connectivity is where you will take the sensor data and be able to send that up to some sort of cloud platform or somewhere on the internet. And there are lots of different methods that you can use for that. So some of the methods that can be used will be around cellular, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, just like you have in your phone. So if there are rural locations that need to have their own direct connection to a cell tower, you will use cellular or some of its subcategories, such as NB-IoT, which is rolled out nationally around both the north and the south. And then you've got other IoT specific technologies, such as LoRaWAN and Sigfox. So we would typically use quite a lot of LoRaWAN technology because some of the great features of it is that it's got an extremely good range. So in line of sight, you can actually potentially get kilometers of range, depending on the strength of the antenna that you use. And it's very low cost to deploy. So you could say you had a site and you want to deploy maybe 100 sensors. You could, depending on the size of the site, you could put up one gateway for a few hundred quid, and that would be able to take all of the data from all of those different sensors that are out there. And the LoRaWAN also uses very low battery consumption, because that is an extremely important piece when looking at IoT technologies, is the operational piece of maintaining them. So it's not just about deploying a bunch of sensors and hoping for the best. It's about, okay, well, what are the actual costs in making sure that these sensors are always online? What is their reliability? And utilizing communications technologies that allow you to ensure that they are as reliable as possible and require as little maintenance as possible is an extremely important part of the decision-making process. And then there is the cloud platform. So this is a big part of where we really sit as a company at Wia. And the cloud platform is where you are taking all of that data that has come from the sensors or the atomic devices, and you're starting to turn that into really, you bring that all together to create an ecosystem of information, which then can be utilized to start to achieve those business goals. So the stuff on the left is never going to achieve, can make you money, save you money, or make you compliant. It's a combination of that with the cloud platform that allows you to then start to extract value, because extracting value and return on investment are the most important elements by far. And so what's inside of a cloud platform? So I'm going to dive into this a little bit more, but at a high level, you've got stuff around the device management, ingesting the data, analysis, and visualizations, really. So why do we build a cloud platform? Why does no one else just build their own? So when you're looking at the cloud infrastructure, and anyone who's worked in software here knows that building software is pretty tough. And it's even more difficult, or we certainly think it is, in the Internet of Things, because of all the different elements that you have to achieve. So like 24/7 uptime, you have to support all of these different protocols that the devices may be sending data in. You may have to be in multiple regions. You may need to be able to store lots of information. And so this brings in lots of different technical and commercial challenges. So the first issue is really the time to market. So if you have an in-house development team, chances are it's going to take months, if not years, to get something that is actually market ready. We see it time and time again with companies all sizes, whether they are a startup or whether they are a large kind of global company, that when they try to build out their own IoT platform, they have a very high failure rate of getting to market. And that really puts you at a disadvantage as well, because if you're building stuff yourself, then and you're not utilizing turnkey solutions, then your competitors are going to get an edge, because if they do, they're going to jump the gun and they're going to be ahead of you very, very quickly. And part of the reason, other reason around this long time to market is the inefficient experience that sits within large organizations. So typically they will not have people who have the required skills, come from different backgrounds, or they'll build different type of software infrastructure. So building out the comprehensive roadmap that is required for any IoT solution can be an extremely daunting task. There are, as I've mentioned, and as I'll show you as we progress here, there are a lot of different elements that have to be considered just to get even the most basic of solutions up and going. Then there's issues around security, and that's where even more time and money and human resource fall into problems. So you need to be able to bring in audit trails, again, linking to compliance and regulation, access control, DDoS prevention. So very quickly explain what DDoS is. If you have a massive array of sensors and they all start to attack the servers at one time, that can just bring down everything. And then also the secure provisioning of those devices in the market. And then that's just a few of the pieces that have to be considered around security. And then one of the other biggest issues that we see with anyone trying to build an IoT platform is that it's difficult to scale. So potentially after a few months, someone has built a platform and they've connected a few devices to it, and then they get an order in for maybe 1,000 devices, and now they can't scale. And so they have stock that is just sitting there that they can't monetize, because if they sell it, that their own infrastructure is going to fall over, or they need to hire people to maintain it, and then there's this huge extra cost. And so it is extremely difficult to ensure that your service is reliable, secure, and very scalable with practically zero downtime. So just quickly going through what's in the IoT platform itself. So we've got the ingestion, the management, the automation, the integration, and the visualization. So we've kind of covered parts of this, but just to kind of reiterate, so we've got the bits outside of wire that are really in the physical world. So that'll be the sensors, the gateways, the kind of all the different types of connectivity methods that have been mentioned. Then within the cloud platform, there are various different types of APIs. So these are interfaces that are used by the sensors or the gateways to send data to. And there are a lot of different types of support within the IoT field. And then if you've got a kind of a vast array of different types of devices, the challenge there is that they all may be sending information in different formats. And you can kind of think of that as a kind of Google Translate for machines. So you can, as we've got hundreds of languages out in the world, you can just imagine how difficult it would be for us to collaborate on a global scale if we didn't have automated systems that can translate one language to another language. And the exact same issue exists with sensors as well. Then you've got the management piece. So if you've got a large array of things that are out there in the field, you need a way to kind of see the status of all of those different things, whether they are devices or gateways, and also the users who get access to them, be able to control the registration, the access control, the cleansing, and also being able to send information down to the devices, whether that is new software updates or being able to control them remotely. The automation piece is one of the pieces that people really love. So it's kind of what we have built is our own proprietary technology that allows this. So this allows you to kind of set up triggers and mechanisms around the kind of the system itself. So if you have, say, a CO2 level is in a dangerous state, then it will send a notification to maybe email or some other existing backend system within the organization so that that can be actioned upon. Then the integration piece is extremely important. So what we have found with other kind of IoT providers is that they like to have closed ecosystems. We like to open up ours and be as kind of widespread as possible. Because really going back to that value extraction piece, that is only possible if all of these different services and sensors and everything in the internet connected ecosystem can speak to one another. And so we make it possible to take data, send it to one place, or take data from another place and action upon that, so that business decisions can be automated as much as possible. And then the visualization piece is just looking at plotting the information maybe onto a bar chart or a line chart, being able to set up maps and floor plans for visualizations of wide open areas. And it's all about being able to take that vast kind of data lake of information and put it into a human readable fashion so that, again, decisions can be made from. Very quickly, there's just some a blank kind of a quick look at some in-screen shot. And you can to very quickly show you, just so you can understand the complexity of what it goes into building an IoT platform. This is the basics that are really required by any. So you can start to understand the complexity here of all of these different things that have to be built. This piece is actually 75 different things in one. So again, when someone is looking at building this technology versus utilizing something off the shelf, you've got to just make the decision around, well, what is the real commercial value in doing so? Is it going to make me more money or save me more money by building this technology? And 99 times out of 100, the answer is no, that off the shelf is a much better business decision. So very briefly then to show you how data then is sent. So typically data will come through from a device or a gateway or something that's already connected to the internet. It will then be sent through to our APIs. It will then be translated in our hub, and then it'll be sent to various different parts of the system. And then in terms of the sensor data, it's kind of the other way around, where we're taking it out of those other parts of the system. It goes to the APIs, and then it's spread out into dashboards, which can be custom built, in-house private clouds, which may be some other data storage that is within the organization themselves, mobile apps, and even kiosks if they are placed around the building as well. And typically for device manufacturers, these are a lot of the things that they will need when they are actually trying to build an IoT device themselves. So looking at energy, so energy is an area that we've recently moved into, and there is a lot to be done in this area. So what we have started off with solutions around electricity, which I'm going to just show you in a second. And we are also working with things around gas and water and really just all forms of energy, again, to help businesses comprehend what is going on within their organizations so that they can make smarter decisions. So how does energy monitoring work with us? So typically you will have maybe the meter or different lines within a building, and we will then put on maybe something like a self-powered AC clamp that will then take the current reading from the meter, or it'll take the pulses and then send that directly to a gateway. That gateway then forwards that information to our IoT cloud and can also combine existing smart meters within the platform or building management systems to collate all of this information in one place. And that is then where you can start to make really great decisions. And then that can then be forwarded off into another platform. So for example, we partner with sustainability companies, and we are their IoT layer so that they can go into organizations and start to sell additional services around the Internet of Things, and not have to worry about building out that piece themselves. They can just worry about helping the companies achieve their sustainability goals. And some of the features around the specific technologies that we work is that it's extremely high accuracy. For this clamp technology, there's actually no batteries required. So we use energy harvesting, which takes the electromagnetic energy from the cable itself to power a capacitor within the sensor. Typically an installation is just a couple of minutes. And it utilizes the wireless technology that I mentioned earlier called LoRaWAN, which means a lot can be spread out throughout a building without a need for lots of different gateways. And some of the reasons to do so are, well, increased awareness. So I think this year, more than any year, our awareness has significantly increased around understanding kind of the implications of energy usage. And what we found was that about 75% of those that utilized energy monitoring technology were actually more proactive with saving money than those that weren't. And that's what a lot of this is about. It's about reduced spend. So typically with the companies that we would work with, they will look at overnight energy usage and different peaks throughout the day. That can be caused by lighting systems or other kind of areas that are being poorly utilized. And that allows you to then start to understand kind of where these costs are going. So most of our customers are aiming for double-digit percentage savings. And again, it's really about getting an understanding of that behavior and analyzing the trends and going through not just the data from today, but over the past week and comparing that over months, and really creating this almost like this signature of what goes on within your premise. So just very briefly, the next steps typically with anyone who's doing an IoT project will be around defining the commercial goals. So what is it that you want to achieve? Consulting a solutions expert. So taking kind of all the technologies that are available and building something that is within the budget and requirements. Doing a low risk POC, so connecting something up and seeing if it's starting to give the data, and then doing a production rollout across the whole your whole organization, so that you can start to really achieve those goals that were defined in step one. So that's it for now. Anyone has any questions? I'm more than happy to answer them. But yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Conall, has anyone any questions for Conall? Does anyone see how, it's great to see that, putting an IoT infrastructure in is really complicated, but then you can come in and just help people with that. I think that's a big takeaway there. But the energy stuff is amazing. Like, it's just so relevant at the minute for all businesses.
Absolutely.
What about sort of open source and the way you were saying about all these different languages and whatever, but is that an issue, or are there some vendors are sort of very hard to access, or get information in and out, or what way, are there any issues there?
Absolutely. So there's definitely a varying degree in terms of being able to integrate things. So luckily, I have a bit more of a simplistic view when it comes to those types of challenges. And at the end of the day, everything is ones and zeros until we reach the stage where we're utilizing quantum. But it's and so everything can be integratable. That's for sure. And any organizations that are trying to push closed ecosystems are now really struggling. And that is because the customers are starting to, I guess, twist their arm a little bit. And so they're starting to say, hey, we need to be able to link this system to that system, or we want to be able to collate all these things in one place, or they're going to change supplier. So it's the customers now just have a lot of strength within the process, and that is going to in itself make everything just easier to connect. And you'll have seen that. So I've obviously been talking today a lot about commercial and kind of industrial IoT technologies, but you will see that even in the home around technologies compatibility technologies such as Matter, which is a consortium of pretty much all consumer IoT companies coming together and figuring out ways to allow all these different things to speak to one another, which is great news.
Great.
Yeah, I'll just jump into some of the questions that are here in the chat window. So yeah, Noel, that's a very varying kind of range that we've got there. So it really depends on what you want to achieve. You know, you can go from a few hundred to a few 100,000 or millions. Like we have projects at the moment which, when they do global rollouts, they will be worth 7 figures. But again, they start off with this extremely small POC to figure out the technical feasibility and the commercial feasibility. And that is the important place to start. I would never recommend going and buying 100 sensors and then figuring out if it's all going to work for you after. Always start with something small and grow from there. And so it's just this iterative process is definitely the best way to approach it. Brendan, so what are options for securing and maintaining IoT infrastructures? I'm going to assume that you mean cloud infrastructures. So with the kind of way that we do, we take care of all of that for you. So we will implement all of the kind of pretty much military grade security and ISO level that will allow all of the data to be kind of always encrypted from channel to channel, and all of our APIs are there to be able to detect any sort of anomalous behavior, such as attacks or anything like that. Some of the other things that we're starting to bring in as well is looking at data integrity. So it's one thing that you could have an array of devices, thousands of devices just sending stuff, but you want to also make sure that the stuff that they're sending is actually correct. And so what we look for trends within that data that have potential anomalous behavior that is being caused by the sensor rather than the environment itself. And that helps device manufacturers to be able to figure out if they have anything in the field that is not performing properly, so that they can actually get that device replaced before anyone even really notices. But yeah, the scalability of the system itself is all really managed by software technologies we use, such as Kubernetes, and it's all pretty much fully automated, as hands-off as possible, actually. And that's something we've spent quite a lot of time working on, because we are very much under the impression that the future of this technology is treating it as a utility. And so you need to have that scalability built in there really pretty much from the early stages. One for Aaron. Yes, so we can. So have you deployed IoT devices in manufacturing business in Northern Ireland, and can you provide examples? Yes. So we've worked with companies around mostly around energy. So just all throughout the island actually. So for them, what they're trying to do is just first off get an understanding of their energy usage. So what the companies that we've worked with around manufacturing, they will have maybe just started off by monitoring the meter itself, and then they will move to different technologies such as Rajowski coils, which are coils that go around the input supply of the building itself. And that then gives you each of the different phases. And then you can start to use the AC clamps they started to use then the SD clamps around different things such as the lighting or even certain machines or appliances within the building, so that they've got a breakdown of where that consumption is coming from heavily. And so I can follow up with more information on that as well. By the way, for everyone, I will share all the slides today from with Gillian and for redistribution too.
Brilliant, thank you. Any more questions there for Conall?
Another one from Aaron. I'm looking at the Helium network, yes. So for anyone who isn't aware of what the Helium network is, it actually utilizes the LoRaWAN technology that I mentioned earlier. And it's kind of the ability for people to set up their own version of it within maybe their own homes or their business premises that allow other vendors to connect devices to it. So it's kind of like, imagine setting up your Wi-Fi router and then allowing other people to connect to your Wi-Fi router here nearby, but you get paid for that. So that's kind of a similar method that's being used for sensors. And yes, we are primarily looking at that around the energy technologies that we are using, because we are speaking to a number of potential partners who would like to be able to provide our energy solutions without having to install gateways. And the Helium network may be one of the ways that we do that. But yeah, still very much evaluating that one. Okay.
And that was really great. Thank you very much. Any more
No
questions?
problem.
No. Okay. Well, look,
Cool.
if we break for about 50, Conall, can you make me host again, please? I always forget that.
Yes, you're grand. Yeah. I have to remind myself how to do this.
Go to my little portrait and click
Got
on
it.
the right.
There you go.
Thank you. Right. Well, if we break for a cup of tea now and come back just after 10:30, say 10:35, and we'll hear from Richard. Does that suit everyone okay? And I'll pause the recording now. Resume recording, and then I am going to wrong one, make you host. So big welcome for Richard, everybody, while I make him host. That should be you now. I'll go on mute.
Okay, and I'll come off mute. Hopefully you can see and hear me, and there should be a big bluey, wavy, slidey, cool, groovy. Thanks very much for having me. Welcome to this session on demystifying IoT or something like that. So more than happy to be here. I'm with Innovate UK KTN, get the branding right. And as you can see from a job title, it's got IoT in it. So without further ado, don't know how many of you know KTN, hopefully all of you. If you didn't, you do know. So we're the National Innovation Network, effectively. Basically, we make connections between people, expertise, knowledge, clients, technologies, all that sort of stuff. We're basically a big network, or a network of networks, so about 45,000 organizations. There's the demographic, about 250,000 innovators, and every university in the UK. More of that later. One of the things we do, I've spared you the whole corporate deck, but one of the more useful things that we do is we run innovation networks. And this is where we get like-minded communities together. And often we try and turn those into their innovation spaces, but also marketplaces where people looking for solutions can, one, get clued up on the technology and get the introductions to vendors that hopefully can help them on their journey. Here's some we prepared earlier. I'll reference the UK 5G Innovation Network and Made Smarter later. We deal with all tech, it's fair to say, and I'm in the digital and creative team. That's both kinds of innovation. And Immerse UK deals with immersive technologies. So all your assorted mixed virtual augmented realities and the like. So if you fancy any of that, check that out. We also connect business with the research base, and indeed, apropos getting the knowledge into your company to successfully deliver digitalization, change programs. Knowledge transfer partnerships are worth considering. You can get a postgrad effectively seconded into your company, 6 months, 12 months, two years, whatever, all TBD. And they will work specifically on your company's issues, and all the art generated will be your company's IP. It is a great scheme. SME's end of it is typically a little bit less than 40k a year, but this is for some top-notch wetware that can come in. If any of you interested in anything like that, please catch hold of me and I'll make some connections there. This has worked so well. I've known people who sort of joined on KTPs. They end up being the CTO of the organization. Also, this one, yeah, perhaps a bit more for sort of the vendors present, but we run something called an innovation exchange. And this is where a problem owner comes to us and says, hey, we're looking for stuff that will fix, insert name of challenge here. And then we prefer those out, companies apply. It's a very short application process. Basically, you put in a sales pitch deck. They get sorted, and then you could find yourself working with some large blue chips, and hopefully a bit of business will come from that. Here's a screen grab of the Innovation Exchange, couple of challenges that we've got up there. None of these will, or rarely will these say, we're looking for an IoT solution, but they're all very IoT. It's fair to say. So yeah, Conall, Duncan, check these out. We're part of the wider Innovate UK group. Innovate UK is effectively the industrial R&D funding body, part of UKRI, Research and Innovation. It's brigaded with the research councils. KTN is the outreach, effectively, arm of it. We get out there, make the connections, stir the pot, make things happen. Edge is another bit of the Innovate UK empire, and is basically about more generic business support to assist scaling. I'm not entirely sure that it functions in Northern Ireland. I think you have other arrangements, but yeah, we're broadly part of a wider mechanism agency. And those connections are helpful in maintaining dialogue between industry and government on sort of where to focus innovation activity. So enough of the corporate stuff. IoT. I thought, right, okay, let's see what happens if you Google IoT and click the shopping tab. That's a pretty good indicator of how mature a market is. And behold, this is what you come up with. It's a whole bunch of those devices. I'm damn sure I saw some of those in Conall's presentation, and they've all got a part to play. But there you go, job done. If you want some IoT, you just go there. The one improvement I would suggest is, as you can see, the IoT is currently only available in black. So indeed, there's possibly a market opportunity there. No. What's IoT about? And indeed, back to sort of the point, the purpose, if you will. It's about solving business problems with data. And here I've sort of outlined the first steps on a journey that you would need to undertake if you were going to deploy IoT type solutions. First, know your problem. What is it? And indeed, these are going to be the easy ones. It's the stuff that's going to cost you money, or the stuff that's stopping you making money, or the stuff that risks you getting a fine, the compliance. Essentially, those three pain points that Conall outlined. So if you know your problem, then from a business perspective, what is it you need to know, when and how, in order to fix that and improve it? So does a klaxon go off in the works? Do you get a text alert? Are you sitting in front of a dashboard or whatever? What and when, the information you need to be presented with, how that's going to be presented to you. And as you saw, there are many and varied options of doing that. If you know that, then you can say, okay, well, what's the data that's required to get to that information? And then you can have a look at what data you've got already. IoT isn't about going in and necessarily starting from scratch. You are going to be generating a lot of data in your business processes anyway. Are you using it? Possibly not. Are you getting the most value from it? Definitely not. But basically do a data inventory. Try and get a data model of that bit of the process. Where do you keep the data? Again, we're looking at cloud solutions there. Are you using those already? Be mindful about these data holdings. Do you need to keep all this data forever and ever? Ooh, that's the scalability issue. If you then take the wet from the dry, you can determine which necessary data, additional data you're going to need, and think about where that's going to come from. Yeah, often you will do it by censoring up stuff, the environment, bits of kit, people. Are people things? Sometimes. Often, though, you confuse this with open source data. Yeah, if you're going to be planning for heating the plant and whatever, if you know what the weather's going to be in the next couple of days, so there are other data sources that you can fuse. So once you get to the point where you've figured out all the data you need in order to arrive at the decisions that will help you fix your problem, then you need to determine how you're going to catch, move, slice, dice, fuse the data, otherwise manage, and surface outputs, i.e. the klaxon going off in the works, or you get an email alert or something like this. Now, I've kind of color-coded these steps effectively from sort of green to red in the sure and certain knowledge that you're going to know your problems with absolute certainty. You can have a pretty good idea of what you need to know and how to fix and improve it. But as we get down into, well, what's the data modeling look like, and additional data, and then definitely on the how do you catch, generate, move, slice, and all that. That's when you're going to have to start getting some helping, I'd suggest. And the thing is that there's plenty of hardware, software managed services available. The key thing is to focus on your problem. And yeah, that's the money, the bottom line. What is the ROI that you're going to get from this? Scope out the landscapes. Good that you're here. You're learning about IoT. Get some freebies. Again, great. If you are seriously considering a digitalization journey, and you can get engaged in the digital surge accelerator program, then do so. And again, looking in the questions, I was heartened to see somebody saying, "Hey, have you done anything in this space?" Yeah, have a look. Which vendors have solved similar problems in that sector, in related sectors, and if you can, co-develop the solution. Yeah, you can go to businesses and they can be as large as the global systems integrators, your CGIs and your SAPs and whatever, and they'll deliver you a solution that does exactly what it says on the spec and no more. But you're wholly beholden to them because you don't know how the thing works. So this is going to be your business as usual going forward. So the more involved you can get in the co-development, the better. And where to go fishing for IoT? Again, if you're new to this, then it's a bewildering landscape. Part of the KTN role is to help you navigate all this. So I see they're on the bill later. IoT Belfast meetups. Meetups are great. They're democratic, Jacobian sort of things. You will get a very eclectic mix of people there, with a buzz of ideas about what's going on in IoT. So for getting the background buzz and making contacts with sort of local people who are involved in the same space, get along to IoT Belfast. The Made Smarter Innovation Network. Again, anything to do with manufacturing, industrial digital technologies, so-called. So IoT is in there, connectivity, AI, machine learning, all those sorts of things. So certainly check out that. Again, there are vendors associated with that network who probably have things that are going to be of interest to you. UK 5G. UK 5G is no more. It expired on the 30th September. But it produced a supplier directory, and in there I've got a screen grab. I filtered by IoT platforms, and it surfaces 60 companies who all, according to the keywords, provide IoT platforms. Check them out, have a look, see. Indeed, if they immediately go off on a tangent on the divergence of B equals 0 and what have you, probably not for you. But if they're talking your sort of business language, then yeah, have a conversation with them. No obligation to buy. Ask around, shop around. Indeed, Queen's, the Northern Ireland Technology Centre, as part of UK 5G, we had a manufacturing working group, and Colm Higgins from NITC, very front and centre of the activities there. So yeah, particularly if you're in the manufacturing space, compare notes with them. I'm sure they'll give you 30 minutes for free, a bit like solicitors or whatever. Could also be a source for one of those knowledge transfer partnerships, if you're so tempted. Wia, yeah, they've been asked to turn up. They're a great local success story. They're more than willing to sort of have a chat with you. So please do follow up with them. Ditto Shoestring, known Duncan for forever and whatever. Yeah, these people more than happy. And me, of course, if you do go to the Made Smarter Innovation Network and sort of look at IoT, it will reliably inform you that I'm the expert that you need to talk to. So yeah, at any juncture, we're here to help innovators sort of on their journey, and we will do in any way, shape, or form that we can. So that's about it. A quick rattle through. I thought I'd like to allow plenty of time for Q&As or whatever, or if it's all stunned silence, then we could have another tea break. No, sure.
Richard, thank you very much. That was great. Thank you. And just I'll pick up on a few points there. Stephen McComb is the Northern Ireland contact. If anyone is interested in KTN, certainly contact Richard too. Oh, Padma, freebies means things, maybe free trials. It's just a question on the chat there. So maybe companies will give you a free trial of something.
Oh, yeah, just anything.
Free.
Yeah, anything for free, information particularly. Yeah, go and ask them, say, hey, I'm thinking about this sort of problem here. What would you suggest? Yeah, now they're going to suggest something that they're probably going to want to try and sell you at some juncture. But no, pick their brains for free. Indeed, the community activities, it's not strictly free. You've got to give them your time. But it'll be time well spent before you actually put your hand in your pocket for a solution.
Yeah. But yes, Stephen McComb is the local contact if anyone's interested in exploring KTNs, and in fact FP McCann have done a lot of KTN projects with Innovate UK KTN, and Gareth Robinson will be talking about one of the projects they did on using AI for quality checking. FP McCann, for those of you who don't know, are a huge company based in Northern Ireland who make concrete pipes, which is a very traditional industry, but they are really embracing digital transformation, and they've been using AI to quality check pipes, and it saved them, a lot of money, which is great for sustainability as well as profitability. Oh, brilliant! Thank you, Richard. And then you mentioned as well Colin Higgins and the team at Queen's at the Northern Ireland Technology Centre. We're hopefully going to be doing an event with them, an in-person one. Imagine that in the new year, in the February, March time. So and obviously they have a lot of experience in manufacturing, but we will be trying to make these events applicable to all sectors. So I will put more details on that when I have them, because I don't yet. And any questions for Richard? Because I just rattling on here. You can put them in the chat or unmute yourself and shout out.
I put the hyperlinks are in the images in the deck. If you'll share that with them,
Brilliant.
so yeah, click through.
Thank you. I think one thing as well is a lot of times these IoT projects, they can't just be seen as an IT thing, or it has to be seen as a strategic business strategy project, rather than just get IT to do that. Would you agree there?
Yeah, indeed. Mainstreaming. It's particularly we've seen a lot of sort of innovation projects where a bit of a company will have an idea and they'll get some money, regional, sub-regional, Innovate UK or whatever, to work with vendors to develop a solution. Getting that adopted into the mainstream of a business can then be a challenge. Often the technological maturity of what's come out of the project isn't quite enterprise grade. Also in industries like automotive, pharmaceuticals or whatever, they are so conservative when it comes to changing practices. They're going to want to see parallel systems run probably for a number of years before they would have faith in the new transport layers that are being used for the IoT solution, or what have you. So indeed, we're not like German SMEs. I mean, a German SME will go for the whole industry Fairpoint and all thing and buy a soup to nuts solution and go the whole hog. Now, here in the UK, it's more about, I've got a problem that needs fixing. This is costing me money, and often companies will do a project. A proof of concept is a good means of testing the feasibility, viability of integrating it into wider company practices, I suppose. But yeah, the more realistic traction comes from a company buying an IoT solution to fix goods inward, or the handoff from one line to another. That comes bundled with a whole load of other functionality that can be exploited as they become more digitalized, which those companies that are going to thrive undoubtedly will.
So Lisa is asking, we are an environmental sustainability company. Can we contact these companies as potential partners, advisors to support our clients?
Absolutely. What I'd suggest, Lisa, have a look through. If any particularly take fancy, catch hold of me. I may very well know them, and I'll be able to do a warm intro for it. But yeah, a lot of IoT, and I put IoT in quote marks. There's no such thing as IoT, as you correctly opened. It's smart this and smart that and smart what have you. Yeah, but ESG proof of ESG credentials and things like this is becoming increasingly important. IoT is a means of getting that auditable assurance about ESG parameters, if you will. So yeah, I'm sure there'd be plenty more than happy to discuss ventures of mutual benefit with you.
Brilliant, thank you. Any more questions for Richard? You can shout out or put them in the chat. No, Richard, thank you very much. I am just looking in the if you make me host again, Richard, please, and then I can pass the baton on.
Okay, hopefully I did that. Gillian, did that work?
Not yet. Give me a second. So if you go to digital, where like the little box I'm in, and hit the 3 buttons at the top. Hang on. Oh no, you did, because I can make you host. Yes, no, that's perfect.
Okay.
Seamless. I am seamless. Thank you very much for that. And yes, if you pass on your slides, I'll share them. Thank you. I am just looking here to see if Duncan is on yet. No, but he is. While we wait, sorry, just gonna shuffle paper. We'll just wait a minute for Duncan and while we do that, I might just take the opportunity to tell you about IoT Belfast. I know that Richard alluded to the group there. So yes, IoT Belfast is a meetup group, so it's free to join. I'm sure most of you are aware of meetup.com. It's just like people can start a meetup group, and it could be people who want to go hill walking in County Down, or it can be tech or whatever. But Northern Ireland has a really good meetup scene for technology. IoT Belfast has been running for a good few years now, nearly 2,000 members and all sorts of people. And I think there are some members on the call today, because I did last minute remember to send out an email to everybody to invite them. So Brian is one of the organisers. I help out a bit too. We are going to plan an IoT Belfast, and I think I said this earlier. It really should be IoT Northern Ireland, because the events we do travel about. Oh, that's not right. Past events. So yeah, here are some of the ideas of the sort of events that have happened. There was IoT in public services, IoT in manufacturing, tourism. So I think you're getting the idea. Agriculture, that it really does. IoT does hit, or smart does hit all sectors. IoT in space, I missed that one. And there are opportunities as well to run lightning talks where anyone can do a quick talk on, if it's a student, maybe a project they're working on, or a company could talk about a pilot that they're running, or a challenge that they're facing. Aging population. So you get the idea. So you're very welcome to sign up to those. Sorry, I'm just checking the chat channel here. I can see something. Oh, I'm not going to see it. So you're very welcome to join that meetup group. All kinds of people, students, academics, practitioners, people who are interested in technology, people who are creating technology, people who are using IoT technologies. Really great membership. And as I say, we're going to plan an event for the February, so the new year, but really broadening IoT out, because IoT really hits on big data and AI as well. And then if you're in manufacturing and engineering, robotics and robotics too, all these technologies are very closely linked. So if you just search Meetup for IoT Belfast, you should come across it. But you're all very welcome to join. I'm just looking to see. Duncan and Andrew here yet. If we maybe go for another, I'm spoiling everyone today, another 10-minute tea break and come back at 11:15. I can put you in breakout rooms if you want, but I think people prefer to go and get a cup of tea. Does that suit everyone okay? So I'm going to pause recording, and I am now going to make Duncan host.
Great. Thanks, Gillian. So hopefully this isn't where I make a complete mess of our digital connections. How's that looking?
Perfect.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and apologies for a slight hiccup at the start. I'm actually sitting in a hotel in Glasgow, and I think the hotel has a bad relationship with Zoom from my expectations. So anyway, I hope I'm connected up via my phone, so I hope all is going to go well from now on. Yeah, so as Gillian said, Anand and I are both part of a team of people working on something we call digital manufacturing on a shoestring, and it's a project that's been based in Cambridge for the last 4 years. We're working with Nottingham on a EPSRC project connected to it. Anyway, I'll talk more about it as we go, but I'm just going to introduce it and talk about some of the things we're doing, and we'll give you some case studies, and I think you'll get a feeling for the connections with the sort of issues around IoT you've been hearing about this morning, and you're going to continue to hear about after we finish. So our starting point in this work was really when Industry 4 began, in the mid 2010s, and one of the issues we found in talking to lots of small companies was that actually there were some major barriers embracing some of the digital solutions that were being offered, and they found it inaccessible for the reasons you see at the bottom: expensive, complicated, and sometimes over-engineered for the small challenges they really wanted to use digital systems to address. So the Shoestring program began out of that. Oops. Okay. And we, as I said, we had this project funded in the UK for between 2018 and 22, looking at very low-cost solutions, simple solutions for SMEs called digital manufacturing on a shoestring. And that program ended earlier this year, but there's actually halfway through the program, it became obvious that to a number of our industrial partners that we needed to find a pathway to keep it going and to ensure that the approach, which I'm about to talk about in more detail, was deployed. So we're working on a number of other research and development activities, including something called the Smart Manufacturing Data Hub, which is very tightly connected to Shoestring, and that's based actually at the University of Ulster. And we're working very closely with them. Made smart a connected factories program with Nottingham and Sheffield, and working with the local hospitals on how low-cost digital solutions might be used in hospitals. Plus, we have a number of activities that are focused on the right-hand side. They're focused around taking the ideas from Shoestring and putting them out into practice, including the middle one, the Scottish activity, which is why I'm here in Glasgow. So enough of the kind of the history, but let's talk about what the approach is. Yeah, and so as I said, we've done the R&D, a lot of the R&D work. We're really focusing on how we scale up. So what is Shoestring? Well, Shoestring is, as it says there, a way in which we can take off-the-shelf technologies and make simple, useful digital solutions. And the sort of solutions we've been developing, and I should say in an industrial context, and particularly focusing on small manufacturers, but a typical solution is might have equipment around the £300 mark, very simple to deploy, work in parallel with existing systems, and be relatively low risk, a sort of a toe in the water to get started on digitizing. So we're going to talk through a case study of a wax production line in a little while. And, the sort of organizations we worked with are ones who kind of were making these sort of comments. I don't know where to start. I don't really have time to embrace something complex and new. We don't think we have the skills, or we can't afford it. And so we've tried to get involved in a digitalization process as simple as possible. And all the solutions we've worked on are focused around production or product operational improvements like efficiency, productivity, quality, and sustainability. But equally, one of the real drivers for the Shoestring program has been about actually helping employees, involving them in the process of deploying a digital solution, so they develop their own hands-on digital skills and confidence. So we don't just put a solution, say, here's a solution. We actually work with an organization to develop their own. They develop their own solution with us. And those solutions, again, as I said, often using non-industrial, but sometimes industrial components as well, but always low cost elements. And those solutions sometimes are on the shop floor. They're unlikely to be core production solutions. They're not going to be 24/7 automation, but they're solutions around the shop floor that might enhance productivity or efficiency, but equally in the back office, or increasingly we're looking at work with company suppliers as well. So I'm just going to take you through the Shoestring process in very simple terms. And one of the key things to say about the process is that we like to think of it as being end-to-end. So it begins with a company saying, well, we kind of want to we're interested in doing something digital, we're not quite sure what it is, and ends with a successful deployment. So the first phase we would do, and working with the company, is helping them to select a solution from which addresses the business needs or constraints they're facing, and is a priority issue for that organization. And it should also be something that's straightforward for the company to implement. We then, again, continuing to work with the company, and these two phases, select and specify, just to give you a sense of it, maybe it's a half-day activity, generally not longer than that. But we work to specify a solution, and normally that's in words rather than in technical speak. It's operational words of what the organization wants to achieve with the solution. Then we developed a design process. I'll give you a little bit more information about that in a moment, and we'll talk about some case studies. But a simple design process, something that we're actually working towards semi-automating to make it even easier for organizations to use. But often the design phase involves taking a solution that's adapted from an existing solution. Give you some examples in a minute, or created a new one. And then the solution is actually built and deployed on site alongside the processes. So on average, the Shoestring solutions we've been developing tend not to be tightly integrated within existing equipment systems, because we want the deployment to be simple and as painless as possible. And of course, with every new system development, there's a significant review phase which we add into that process, which it just ensures that the organization is comfortable and happy with it. So just to give you a sense of some typical solutions, and as I said, they're relatively simple and straightforward. So this is a really interesting one. For many organizations have got old analog display panels behind which there is complex wiring that no one actually has a manual or can access. And yet those panels are often important and need to be checked on a regular basis, and it's quite time consuming and people forget to do it. So the simple approach there has been to point a camera at them and do some image processing and actually turn an analog display into a digital networked set of signals. Probably the most popular, most sought after solution has been a very simple solution, which is just job state tracking. So what is the state? Where are my jobs in the production shop floor at the moment. So lots of organisations, and whether that's using barcode systems or QR or manual entry, actually we've done a number of different ones, but just and connecting up through a Raspberry Pi. And equipment monitoring, vibration and temperature being the two most commonly recurring. Again, something that we've done quite a number of deployments already. So, as I said earlier, one of the starting points when we talk to companies, in fact, the starting point of that research project back in 2018 was to spend a lot of time talking to groups of companies about what digital priority areas they would like to see solutions developed for. And from that, we actually developed a catalogue of these priority areas. And, and in fact, what was interesting is that to begin with, we began with 20 odd areas that we had identified talking to companies. We ran a number of workshops, and that number increased, but very soon it flattened out. And so we actually if you go to the digital shoestring.net website, there's 40 digital solution areas that have been identified as areas that small companies need. And in fact, from those, we've also been able to determine a sort of what we call a top 10, but the most commonly sought, requested digital solutions. And in fact, from the top 10, you see the job tracking solution I mentioned a moment ago as number one. But even from that top, even the top 5 actually meet about the top need of 86% of small companies at the moment. Now, clearly, once they've implemented job tracking, then they've got lower level needs. But job state tracking is a dominant element in about 50% of the cases. And actually, if I went down to the top 15, you'd find that actually about 99% of companies select one of the top 15. So actually, there's a really interesting thing there that most companies have very similar interests, at least to begin with, as they start in doing digital deployments. So our solution approach, and we're not going to go into great detail on the solution approaches, but today, but it has been built around, as I said earlier, taking low-cost technologies and actually making them easy interoperable, and by developing what we call building blocks. So the building blocks, they look like jigsaw puzzles here, but actually what they are is really just a mechanism for standardizing interfaces between regularly used components. And actually, one of the things we found very early on when we started to build solutions in this way is that we had common clusters of building blocks recurring over and over. And so we call those common clusters service modules. And what you see 3 service modules in the slide there. And in fact, what we found is probably less than 10 service modules or even less recur over and over again in the solutions we build, which is really important for us, because what we've been trying to do is to come up with a way to develop a pathway for easy reuse and reconfiguration of solutions to build new solutions. And again, you'll see a couple of examples that Anand will take you through in a little while. Actually, I just realized I should just stop and just check. Can someone just let me know that I'm transmitting okay? Because I'm conscious of the fact that I'm doing it on a tethered phone.
Yeah. No, we can
All
hear
good?
you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great. So yeah, actually, you can see I was just doing this talk. Sorry, hang on. I was just doing this talk in Australia 2 days ago. So it's in dollars, but roughly £300 is the component cost anyway. So just to make a comment about that design approach and the connectivity with IoT. In many cases, the type of solutions we're developing have very much an industrial IoT flavor, because we're taking data from the industrial environment and making use of it in different guises, either locally or sometimes in cloud-based environments. So there's at least three ways that we're making use of IoT. I mean, potentially, our workshops and pilots and case studies are actually helping to identify potential IoT, industrial IoT opportunities. And we've run a number of those. We're actually making use of a number of the IoT technologies you see below, and actually part of the process is about encouraging the use of open source affordable technologies, and many IoT technologies fit into that category. So again, you'll see some of that, those different buzzwords below reoccurring when Anand talks about our case studies. So just to hurry us along a little bit, because I'm conscious of the fact that we started a bit late. In fact, Anand, perhaps we might just talk about the first case study in detail, but actually just briefly mention the second case study. But we've done a number of pilots over the course of the first 3 or 4 years, just to try Shoestring solutions in action, and you can just see a listing of them there. And although you don't see any Northern Ireland pilots, actually, as part of the Smart Manufacturing Data Hub, we're actually embroiled in half a dozen pilots in Northern Ireland at the moment, and so you'll be seeing Northern Ireland appearing as quite a dominant element on this list, probably within a month or two. But these pilots have been really important because they helped us to test our design methodology, but also to test the ability of companies to develop and deploy simple solutions themselves. And in some cases that had to be done entirely online due to the COVID restrictions we faced a year or so ago. So I'm going to hand over to Anand at this point to take us through the first case study. Thank you, Anand.
Duncan, you happy to change the slides, right?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you, Duncan. So hi, I'm Anand, and I'm part of the Shoestring team with Duncan. So I'll be taking you through 2 really interesting case studies. Shoestring works with a lot of SMEs for piloting our approaches and solutions. So the first one you see here is temperature monitoring. We did it with a company called Chemdent, who is a dental wax manufacturer. Earlier, they used to manually check the wax temperatures on their production lines periodically. They had these wax conveyor belts, which batches of wax paper strips they used to come out, and someone had to go there periodically, check the temperatures manually and record them. It was basically a pen and paper approach. When we introduced the Shoestring approach to them, using this really simple and low cost technique, their production supervisor was able to develop a really low cost and simple temperature monitoring system using basically off-the-shelf technologies and components. For example, they used a non-contact infrared temperature sensor to monitor the really hot wax going on the conveyor belt, had a low-cost 30-pound Raspberry Pi microcomputer on which the temperature sensor was connected, and had a few really basic technologies like InfluxDB for database and Grafana for visualization. And once this system was developed, this allowed them to have constant eyes on the production process. Now, no one needed to go there periodically, manually check everything. So everything, it was constantly capturing data, showing it on the screen. So here's a really interesting video of that pilot. Duncan, next one, please. Yeah, you have to, yeah.
So we just got a short video that we're going to play that about that pilot activity.
We found out about digital manufacturing on a Shoestring about a year ago at the Digital Manufacturing Week, which was online. We make a wide variety of dental materials, including dental cements for fillings, prophylaxis paste for polishing teeth, but our main product is modelling wax, which is used in the process for manufacturing dentures. We We were finding it hard to digitalise our processes in-house, mainly because we didn't have the knowledge or expertise. We thought it would be quite an expensive way to go to improve our manufacturing, and it seemed quite daunting at the time.
So we helped Camden by using the Shoestring approach, which came in 3 stages. The first is to identify their high-level business needs. The second is to match those business needs with specific digital solutions that they would need to solve their problem. And finally, we provided support maintenance, and that helped Camden become more comfortable with the solution and largely autonomously deploy the same solution in a different part of the factory.
The solution that we've implemented with Shoestring records and monitors the temperature of the wax as it goes through the process from molten wax through to cooling. If the wax is too hot, it won't roll correctly. We'll have holes in the wax. Likewise, if it's too cold, the wax will crack as it's rolled and cut and give us more waste.
So the solution we came up with for Camden was to use a range of low-cost temperature sensors across their factory to monitor the wax temperature. And this was hooked up to an affordable microcomputer, a Raspberry Pi in our case, which was running those various services for data collection, data visualization, and data storage. It's still early days, but the results are positive from the solution in that Camden have now identified the optimal temperature at which to control their process, so that minimizes the damage caused to their resulting sheets.
The feedback from the staff working on that process has been positive so far. It's easy for them to identify through the dashboard whether problems they're experiencing are related to temperature, whether the wax is too hot or too cold. It's given us a lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge that we wouldn't otherwise have had access to through the University of Cambridge. It's been easy to deploy, relatively low cost, low risk, and it's given the staff something new to engage in. The Shoestring project has been great for us. It's given us a great introduction into digital manufacturing. It's given us the confidence to look at other projects. And to anyone out there that's looking or thinking about digital manufacturing, I would say give Shoestring a call. You've got nothing to lose.
Yep. So this slide is a bit technical. So I'll give you a quick overview of how we do stuff in Shoestring. So if you see those colorful jigsaw puzzles, which Duncan earlier mentioned as building blocks, those are basically levels of abstraction and through how we standardize interfaces, like how these things talk to each other. On a much more simpler, broader level, we talk about service modules. We have a limited set of service modules. If it collects data, it's data collection. If it stores data, if it has anything to do with state detection, it's state and data storage. If it informs the user, it's user interface. There are other modules like actuation and analytics and so on. So for this particular pilot, we were using only these 3 service modules. And as you can see, the data collection is ×4 because at a later stage, these guys, they got so much involved with the Shoestring process, they managed to put sensors at 4 different locations on the factory floor. So as you can see on the left-hand side, the table, very basic off-the-shelf components, a computer, a microcomputer, which is Raspberry Pi 4. It's really common nowadays. Infrared temperature sensor, it's a non-contact temperature sensor. We are using Grafana for visualization. You can have a local visualization as well as a screen, small TFT screen. And we have all the components. They cost around £300. So this $600 you see is Australian dollars. So once these things get together, we got a lot of good insights. So the sensors collect data. They push the data to Raspberry Pi, and then it goes to a database. Fine, Duncan. So the operational way of doing things under Shoestring is we take small steps or different iterations. initially we start with a proof of concept. So for this particular case pilot, we just started looking at how to collect data and how to store it. We started with Excel because still most of the companies, a majority of the companies still use Excel to store and play around with data. The next iteration looked at improving the functionalities. So and mind you, this whole process is being developed by their production supervisor with one of the researchers from the Shoestring team. So it's a co-development process. So their production supervisor, he managed to add a live dashboard using this Grafana web interface. They got really interested, more confident with the data and what they were seeing. They used our solution auto configurator to develop, expand this solution and deploy it more locations. 2 more locations were included. And finally, this whole system went live. They added protective covering to make it more robust because they were dealing with pretty harsh environments, hot temperatures and splattering wax and stuff. Next one, please, Duncan. Yeah, so these are some of the really interesting company benefits that Camden taught us. First and foremost, it definitely helped them improve the production efficiencies because they were now able to see much more about their operational processes, about the wax, the temperature. They were able to diagnose quality issues. On different aspects, the production supervisors, he became so well versed with the Shoestring approach. He started championing the solution. We expanded the solution on his own across multiple locations on the shop floor. He also developed a new technical skill. His enthusiasm inspired his colleagues, and they all together are further advocating digitalization. They have become so confident.
Anand, I'm sorry. I think we haven't got time to do the second case study. I'm just, but I think. So I'm sorry about that. I think we better, because I just noticed the time and we started late. But there is a second case study which we're happy to make the slides available. But we talked about another deployment actually in a factory near to where we are in Cambridge, and this was all focused around a very simple question: the organisation just wanting to know when their machines were actually on or off, or running, but actually idle, and so a very simple system putting in managing the information, the power information going into the system, and using light sensors to display whether the machine's in use or idle or off. But I'm going to leave that for now and just move us on through that case study. If I can get the slides working. So, we as I said, we've done 20 of these pilots now, and we're already involved in probably another dozen working in different parts of the UK. And the sort of responses we get are, like the first and the third one there are around the improvements to the operations, but like just as in the video, Craig talked about the improvement in the digital culture within the organisation. And I think one of the things we're finding is these sort of solutions and the way working with the companies on the solution development actually has a huge benefit way beyond just the single solution that gets put in. And as Anand has mentioned, ChemDent went on and did 3 extra temperature sensing systems more or less by themselves after the initial deployment. And so there's another point to make is that the people that are deploying are not high-tech digital experts. They are either production staff or operational engineers, or so actually sometimes students and apprentices. And we've done a number of hackathons in further education colleges with Make UK in their apprentice training centre, where students are actually developing shoestring solutions in a relatively straightforward manner, because a lot of the technologies we're integrating are things that they're used to playing with at home or at school. So I think the cultural change issue is as important as the individual solution. And I think that's what, that comment from the Denchi group up in very northern Scotland, Thurso, implies. So just where we're going now is where we're looking to scale up the shoestring activity. We're doing a part. Why I'm here in Scotland is we're running a pilot in the region here. Western Australia, as you've heard already, we're doing some work in the food and drink industry there. And I also mentioned the work we're doing, for example, in Northern Ireland on the Smart Manufacturing Data Hub activity. So what we're trying to do, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to move quite quickly through these last slides. Each time we work in we found a region is the right sort of level of granularity to work with, and that's because actually the aim for the Shoestring team is that we become decreasingly involved in any rollout of shoestring solutions, because otherwise we become a bottleneck. And therefore we're working to engage with lots of the organizations within a region to help achieve, not just solution deployments, but also help work on regional digital priorities, help digital career developments, etc., and work with the next generation of the workforce and ensuring they're going to be digitally savvy as well. So our next steps in Shoestring are to do more of these regional rollouts. We would like within the next 2 to 3 years for there to be thousands of Shoestring deployments in the UK. We're building an online portal so that our guidelines, our design approaches, our starter solutions are available, and training programs so that we can help build the capability in regions to support organizations developing Shoestring. And that's us in a nutshell. So thank you very much for listening this morning. I'm really sorry about the late start. And there is more, including information about that other case study on the Shoestring website.
Duncan and Anand, thank you very much. That was brilliant. Please don't apologise as well. Technology. I mean, I was telling Conall earlier that nobody could hear him and everyone could. I just didn't have my sound turned on. So I'll always be here to make everyone look better. That was really, really interesting, and I love this project because it is just there's really simple things that get people enthused about the technology and just shows what it can do. And I think, and Richard put it in the chat as well, getting good staff is really, really hard. Everyone struggles with recruitment, and if people see that companies that they work in or that they could work in are doing things like this, it's more it looks like a better place to work. It's a company that is invested in trying to make the business better, but also upskilling the staff or teaching them new skills. And I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, so we were having a meeting with a company in Eastern England 2 days ago, and the CEO said that he's just reassigned 2 of his staff to be Shoestring people, and that they've got their usual jobs, but actually a chunk of their time allocation is now going to be around digital deployments, because he as you say, it's really hard to go and recruit new people, but he's got people that are enthused and keen to learn within the organization, and he sees the way he can start immediately is just identify people that are keen, enthusiastic, want to learn, and work from that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Has anyone any other questions or observations they'd like to raise with Duncan and Anand, or anything else that you've heard today?
Yeah, my apologies, because I was in a couple of other meetings before I joined, but I think a really interesting thing for us is I mean, one of the challenges IoT faces generally is I don't know how to put this, kind of industrial credibility. People often say, oh, these IoT solutions. They look like they have potential, but I'm worried about them, how they comply with standards, how they fit into an industrial environment. And I think one of the things that with the methodology we're working on with organizations is kind of it's building a framework that organizations are becoming confident about. And maybe there's a pathway for IoT deployments within the Shoestring approach, because because actually it's already there and being tried and being used. So that I think there's a nice opportunity to kind of reinforce industrial IoT along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. And as well, you mentioned about the technologies and about that open source thing. So if you do start to do stuff, you're using open source technologies so that when you go to build, you can do that easily.
Yeah, and they're not without their challenges, but they're good challenge. You've got to, if you want to put an industrial solution, it's got to be supportable. So you've got to make sure that the open source software is supported and stable, etc. But I think that's all doable. And it's generally all positive, and we just got to work with them with organizations to help them feel that actually simple low cost things can actually make a difference to their operation, and they'll be keen to get involved.
Yeah. And there's so many of the things you were talking about and the case studies. I know this is manufacturing, but you can see applications in construction, or if somebody's running facilities, or there's so many different. So
a really good point, and we've completely forgot to mention it. We've actually had parallel programs running in construction and logistics and medical devices. So looking at the same Shoestring design methodology in those domains. And we've done a number of construction pilots, and in fact, Anand is directly involved in a number of our logistics pilots. So we're working with logistics organizations, doing things like, quite simple things like counting the number of boxes coming off the back of a truck. The type of solutions that they kind of seem so simple. Why would you bother? But actually, it's on a daily basis. That's a real hassle for any logistics provider. Just checking the amount of items arriving or leaving from their warehouses.
Yeah, well, brilliant, great. That's great. And Dennis has asked, any views on cybersecurity vulnerabilities with open source?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we're definitely looking at. We're looking at the security challenges of our hardware, because we're using single board microcomputer hardware generally, and there's some security issues there. But as I think, well, Rebecca's just made the comment in the chat. They're very similar challenges they are with closed source. So from our point of view, we're not differentiating greatly between anything. We're not always using open source. We can when it's available, but they're not very different challenges, in fact.
Yeah.
I don't know if Rebecca wants to expand on that.
Rebecca, you can let Phil know that I talked about open source as well. But no, absolutely. The challenges are there for all the both open and closed. Any more questions, or and I certainly, if it's okay, share your slides if you want, if Anand or yourself want to forward them on to me.
Okay, we'll do that. Yeah, I'll just extract we'll probably extract the video because it's very large, but send the rest of it.
Yes, and I mean there are videos and stuff on your website as well.
Yeah, that video is on the website already.
Yeah, and Peter Devine, I'll email everybody as well about the data. Oh, I can't remember what it's called.
Smart Manufacturing Data Hub.
Thank you as well. I'll include details on that.
Yeah,
I have put, thank you both very, very much, and thank you, Richard, as well. I think Conall has left, and thank you everybody as well for joining us today. I have put the link to the feedback form just up there. I think at 11:46 I posted it in the chat again. It takes 2 minutes, not even, just fill it in. Please fill it in. It would be really useful for me. Rebecca, I said, if she gets on her soapbox, she may never get off about open source. But no, brilliant. Look, thank you very much. I'll let everyone go for their lunch then. It's not raining here, so I might actually take the dogs out for a walk. And thank you very much. We'll keep in touch, Richard, definitely, and I'll share the recording of this afterwards. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.